Hello everyone, welcome to this technology track session. I'm Renato Alves and I will be introducing the topic Developing a Reusable and Versatile Virtual Bioinformatics Training Platform in the de.NBI Cloud. So starting with what is the de.NBI Cloud and what is de.NBI? So de.NBI is the German Network for Bioinformatics Infrastructure. It is a de.NBI consortium that is constituted by 39 project partners, 30 institutions distributed across Germany, of which structured in 8 service centers, and is also the national Elixir Germany node. So in terms of the different services and different activities that de.NBI provides, there are, for each of the 8 centers, there's a different specialty on a research topic, and you can see on screen the specialization of each of these centers. But in broader terms, it provides both services to the research community in Germany and in Europe, and also infrastructure, as the name implies, to infrastructure support to the German community, specifically through the cloud. And I will also be mentioning throughout the rest of the talk the training aspect and how we actually bridged the cloud and the training as a way to continue providing training and other learning opportunities, particularly during the pandemic times. In terms of training, de.NBI has or offers different workshops on different skills, as mentioned before. Each site specializes on a different topic, but overall there are many skills that are generic on bioinformatics. Specifically on the de.NBI Cloud, so the cloud is a federated cloud, is distributed across 6 locations, and it integrates with the Elixir authentication portal to grant access to its users. It has all the primary service modes that you can find in most of the known clouds, such as the Amazon Cloud, Google Cloud, and so on, by providing infrastructure as a service, and this is the one that I will be focusing more for the rest of this talk, platform as a service, and software as a service. In terms of the resources that are available, the cloud is backed by over 20,000 cores and 30 petabytes of storage capacity, and it also has dedicated high memory nodes for specific needs, and also specialized hardware such as GPUs and FPGAs for dedicated needs as well. So I mentioned that we used de.NBI Cloud for our training needs. How did we actually go about this? So the cloud is managed by an OpenStack solution, which allows us to very flexible control over what we can deploy. And particularly in this setup, we deployed a Jupyter Hub system running different languages. On screen you can see Python, but in addition we made use of this BB-Grid system to also extend with additional languages, including SnakeMake as a way to manage jobs and to teach how to execute workflows. And the cherry on top of the cake is Slurm, that can be configured using this BB-Grid platform to mimic the experience of a real HPC system, where you will find a queuing system. In this case, we simulated a small-scale HPC center by using different nodes running in the cloud, but it was just about the right size for us to simulate workloads and waiting times, and how if you submit too many jobs or so on, how the queue can penalize you and how you will have to wait for your jobs. So we managed to, with this small sample of software, all of them open source software, we managed to provide a very broad and versatile platform for different needs. All of this was set up, as I mentioned before, using this BB-Grid system that was developed in Bielefeld as part of the de.NBI network. And specifically, the setup that we used here is available in this cloud training setup link, and we have plans to extend it further in the future with additional tools, additional platforms, that are very much in need in our community and that we are providing training on. So yeah, and we are hoping that this will eventually grow into a community project. Specifically about lessons that we have learned during moving online, and as I mentioned before, like many other activities, we were forced to adapt quickly materials to this online format, and so some of the practices that we had for in-person teachings or in-person workshops were not really easily translatable to virtual formats. Many things didn't work, and so it was a bit of a trial and error until we managed to find a few set of recommended guidelines or a few set of practices that ensured at least a higher quality or a more successful workshop. And so with this, I will present here some recommendations on this in these directions, and some reasoning behind it to explain how we came to these conclusions. And so to begin with, something that perhaps may not be novel if you have already tried to teach workshops online. Something that is very much recommended for instructors is to have 2 screens or 2 devices. For organizers, perhaps even a 3rd screen might be useful. And this is also valid for participants, where although not everyone can afford or has the space to have 2 screens at home, another alternative could be to connect using 2 devices. Could be 2 laptops, could be 1 laptop and one tablet, or a phone, a smartphone, for instance. But ideally one where you would be able to comfortably type and follow along the material, and other where you could, for instance, just focus on the video stream and the audio. Another aspect of teaching, particularly in virtual formats, this is true for in-person as well, but in virtual formats became even more of a requirement, is to never teach alone. And in terms of how the team of teachers can be composed, this can be, for instance, 2 leading instructors, as represented on the left, or a leading instructor and a team of helpers behind it. Even in the case of 2 leading instructors, having helpers around is always a good addition to the course, and ensures that all questions are promptly answered and or called to the attention to the of the instructor, so that they can be replied to in plenum. And specifically about helpers and perhaps the helper ratio, which was something that we found that it's not entirely the same as an in-person course. We found that ideally the ratio would be 1 helper to 4 to 5 participants, and a maximum of 1 helper to 10 participants. Obviously, this depends a lot on the type of content and the level of expertise and the level of the materials themselves. But this is taken here just as a recommendation. In terms of recordings, this is a somewhat controversial topic. We found that in some cases participants do ask for the possibility of having a record session so that they can review it afterwards. But we also found that quite often, just the fact that the sessions are being recorded, people shy away, and interaction drops considerably in these calls. And so while some formats may be more suitable for recording, I would recommend here to be cautious about simply deciding to record without perhaps considering the community that you will be recording. Then specifically, and going back to the topic of how many screens and how much screen space you may have, and also how many windows you may need you are asking your participants to focus on. So we found that if 2 screens are available, 3 applications or 3 windows works best. A 4th window could be considered, but this comes as a trade-off to also how much space the participant will have for his own work. And we also found that 3 apps or 3 windows is already a little bit suboptimal if you only have 1 display. 4 is even less. So at some point you end up either having to use very large fonts also from the side of the instructor so that participants can comfortably read what's on the screen because the window becomes very small, or there will simply not be enough space and you may need to alternate between windows very fast, and this leads to very quickly to a loss of content and easily losing track of what is happening. And then last but not least, perhaps something that might be obvious to everyone already at this point, is the quality of sound, and particularly the quality of ambient sound or the noise in the surroundings. And our recommendation is to use a headset with a microphone, such as the one that I'm currently using, or to use a headset with a microphone, either a dedicated one or a built-in on the laptop. We do recommend not to rely on both the speakers and the microphone from the same device, as very often this leads to picking up a lot of ambient noise and a lot of feedback on occasion, and different people, particularly in different systems, will find this more challenging. So even a simple headset plugged on the audio socket will improve considerably the quality of sound. And then specifically on accessibility, the quality of the interaction is particularly challenging in virtual formats, and so we do encourage to actively and cheerfully encourage both that the cameras are open and that participants openly ask questions in the plenum, or that follow the questions in the chat. Feedback is extremely important, and so feel free or do ask very often how things are going, if the pace is good, if the pace is bad. I would say once an hour or at the end of every other session to ask, and also very importantly to collect feedback at the end of every day, particularly if there are different instructors on different days, or if there's enough space to accommodate adjustments in the program. And then finally, something which may be a bit challenging, which is live captioning. So language and the quality of the connection sometimes is not accessible to everyone. There are accents that may interfere with understanding the message that comes across, and so live captioning, although not entirely free, or the available platforms, in terms of privacy, they may not be entirely what would be desirable, but this is a feature to keep in mind if you want to ensure. So having captions on the audio in real time can be particularly useful. And obviously, all of this does come with a trade-off, which is that particularly if you have the cameras open all the time, that there might be bandwidth needs that need to be a bit higher. So this is to keep in mind. And so in terms of platforms, there were quite a few platforms that we have used, most of them open source. Some of them you can deploy on site, and with this you can keep privacy in the back of your mind. So Mattermost is a Slack alternative for those that know this platform, and can be deployed on site. It is very convenient for real-time interactions, often for after the course interactions, and to keep some group discussion and some community going. HedgeDoc as a note-taking platform and overall an organizer. You may also know the commercial platform HackMD, which is where this platform forked from. Lime Survey, a platform for collecting survey, both pre, the daily, and post feedback. And two visual and audio platforms, Big Blue Button and perhaps Zoom, that you may already be familiar with. And so I mentioned open source. Zoom is listed here as a very popular platform and very reliable, but is not really open source. And I would just like to go quickly into a short demo or a short breakdown of the features that you may want to keep an eye out for the future. So Zoom, like Big Blue Button, provides most of the features that you will find a need. So chat, real-time chat, interactions, and raising the hand, being able to upload files and make files available to participants, polls, sharing the screen, and a whiteboard. All of these are available all around. Then in terms of breakout rooms, Zoom does have breakout rooms, but Big Blue Button breakout rooms are considerably superior in the sense that you can easily alternate. So the Big Blue Button is a browser-based solution, so you can have tabs open on different breakout rooms, and you can easily alternate between them without much problems. And so, and you can also simply join the audio of one of the breakout rooms if there's a need of troubleshooting something quickly. It also provides a shared note interface, so you can have everything in one place. And as Big Blue Button is both open source and can be deployed on site, it also has better privacy and has the advantage of being able to be customized for whatever needs. And so with this, I would like to close my presentation and to acknowledge particularly Jan Kruger for excellent BB Grid support and Peter Bellman for support with setting up things in the de.NBI cloud. And with that, I would be happy to take your questions.